my way. Adam 810, 1035 Mary.
What's up with 925 Adam? Halldale, Rosecrans.
911, what's your emergency?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of my series, Crafts and Crimes. Every week I post a new video of myself crafting while talking about a different true crime. This week I will be talking about the case of America's most prolific serial killer, Samuel Little. He confessed to 93 murders between 1970 and 2005. Samuel Little was born as Samuel McDowell on June 7, 1940, in Reynolds, Georgia, to mother Bessie May Little. Little claimed that his mother was a prostitute, and it is believed that she was in prison when Samuel was born. A census from around the time Little was born showed that his mother worked as a maid and that his father was 19-year-old Paul McDowell. In an interview with Jillian Lauren, a journalist from New York Magazine, Samuel Little told them his mother abandoned him on the side of the road when he was a baby. Little was mostly raised by his grandmother, and shortly after his birth his family moved to Lorain, Ohio. He attended Hawthorne Junior High, where he had problems with discipline and achievement. By Little's own account, as a child he began to have sexual fantasies about strangling women. They allegedly began in kindergarten when he saw a teacher touching her own neck. As a teenager he began collecting true crime magazines that depicted women being choked. In 1954, when Little was 13 years old, he was sent to a reformatory school for teenage boys. While at the school his mother's location was listed as, quote, whereabouts unknown. During his year at the reformatory school, he received 47 disciplinary reports. At 16 years old Samuel Little had become a drifter. He broke into a house in Omaha, Nebraska in 1956. Little was arrested and sent to an institution for juvenile offenders. From then on he was in and out of reform schools and jails for various forms of theft charges throughout his remaining teen years and early 20s. By the time Samuel Little was released from Mansfield Prison, his mother had resurfaced with an address in Miami. In the late 60s Little moved to Florida to live with his mother Bessie May. Miami was where he is suspected to have taken the life of his first victim, Mary Borsley, aged approximately 33 years old, on December 31, 1971. But before we discuss the possible victims, first we will talk about the crimes and victims that Samuel Little was officially convicted for. He was convicted for robbing a furniture store in Lorain. In 1961, he was released 3 years later. By 1975 he had been arrested 26 times for various crimes, including theft, assault, attempted rape, fraud, and attacks on government officials. In 1982, Samuel Little was arrested in Pascagoula, Mississippi for the murder of 22-year-old Melinda Rose LaPree, who went missing in September of that year. The grand jury declined to indict him for her murder. However, while under investigation Samuel was extradited to Florida and tried for the murder of 26-year-old Patricia Ann Mount. Her body was found in September of 1982. Witnesses identified Little as the man who spent time with Mount the night before her disappearance, but they were viewed as being untrustworthy by the jury. He was acquitted in January 1984. Samuel Little moved to California and stayed near San Diego. In October 1984 he was arrested for kidnapping, strangling, and beating 22-year-old Lori Barros, who survived. 1 month later Little was found in the backseat of his car with another woman who was also beaten and strangled, in the same area as his attack on Barros. He served 2.5 years in prison for the crimes, and upon his release in February 1987 he moved to Los Angeles. It is believed that he committed 10 additional murders during his time in LA. At the time the LAPD gave him the nickname the Choke and Stroke Killer because he often masturbated while strangling his victims. Samuel Little was arrested on September 5, 2012 at a homeless shelter in Louisville, Kentucky and extradited to California to face narcotics charges. Authorities used DNA testing to connect Little to the murders of 3 women. Carol Linda Alford, aged 41, was found dead in an alley on July 13, 1987 in Los Angeles. From the waist down she was nude, she was strangled to death and she had multiple injuries indicating she had been hit in the head. Her daughter recognized her body. Her murder was the first one linked to Samuel Little through DNA found under her fingernails and on her underwear. Guadalupe Apodaca, age 46, was found murdered on September 3, 1987, in an abandoned auto repair shop in Los Angeles by a boy kicking a ball against the building who peeked through the window. Little killed her by kneeling on her chest and strangling her, causing her to have a seizure. She was also nude from the waist down and Little was linked to the crime through DNA evidence. Audrey Nelson Everett, age 35, was found in a dumpster behind a nightclub on August 14, 1989. She was naked from the waist down and had been struck repeatedly in the head before being forcefully strangled. Everett also had road burns, a smashed spinal bone, and bruises on her belly that suggested she was dragged along a hard surface. Coroner Dr. Eugene Carpenter testified, quote, "These signs of force are the greatest that I have seen in a 27-year practice in a county which has its share of strangulation cases." DNA found under Audrey's fingernails linked Little to her murder. Samuel Little was officially charged with these murders on January 7, 2013. A few months later the police revealed that he was also being investigated for 36 murders committed in the 1980s. On September 25, 2014, Samuel Little was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murders of Alford, Apodaca, and Everett. After his original conviction, he confessed to 93 additional murders and has been officially connected to 50 of them, but authorities believe that he did commit all the crimes he claimed. Samuel Little said of his victims, quote, "I never killed no senators or governors or fancy New York journalists. Nothing like that, I stayed in the ghettos." The majority of Little's victims were prostitutes, drug addicts, or homeless individuals, and most of them were female. Despite being connected to 50 additional murders, he has only been convicted for 8 of his crimes. Beside his initial 3 convictions, Samuel Little was convicted of the murders of 5 additional women between 2018 and 2019. Denise Christie Brothers, age 32, was a mother of 2, who was found dead on February 2, 1994, in Odessa, Texas after going missing on January 1. Little pled guilty to strangling her and was sentenced to his 4th life sentence on December 13, 2018. Annie Lee Stewart, age 32, was murdered on October 11, 1981, in Cincinnati, Ohio. She was strangled and her body was disposed of in some woods behind an apartment complex in Grove City. Mary Jo Payton, age 21, was murdered in 1984, in Cleveland, Ohio. Little claimed that he met her at a bar and took her to an abandoned factory where he choked her and threw her body down a basement staircase. Payton's body was found on July 3, 1984 by 2 workers from a nearby company. Rose Evans, age 32, was murdered on or around August 21, 1991, in Cleveland, Ohio. Little offered her a ride, then strangled her to death before dumping her body in an abandoned lot and covering it with 2 tires. Zena Marie Jones, age 30, was found murdered on July 28, 1990 in West Memphis, Arkansas, after going missing on July 6, 1990 in Memphis, Tennessee. Little admitted to killing her in 2018 and provided a sketch, which Zena's family identified as her in April 2020. He alleged that he picked Jones up at a motel in Memphis, and that he choked her when they were passed by a police car. Once they passed into Arkansas, he dumped her body off a bridge into the Mississippi River. Little was convicted for these 4 murders in August 2019. Samuel Little first confessed to the murders in 2018 as a way to get a prison transfer out of the Los Angeles County prison he was being held in. It's unclear why he wanted a prison transfer or if detectives agreed to make that deal or if Little shared information separate from any agreement with law enforcement. His confessions began a nationwide effort to tie him to unsolved murders in over a dozen states. Over the course of 2 years, Little shared detailed information about each of his victims, including how he killed them and the general location of their bodies. He also drew incredibly detailed pictures of his victims. The FBI have used this information to create a website listing the details Little shared, the pictures he drew, and where he thought they were from. They are hoping that with the public's help and details provided by Little, they can resolve the 40 unsolved cases. A few of the murders that Little confessed to but wasn't convicted of include Melissa Thomas in Opelousas, Louisiana in 1979. Brenda Alexander in Phoenix City, Alabama in 1979. An unidentified woman in Fredonia Smith in Macon, Georgia in 1977 and 1982. Dorothy Richards and Daisy McGuire in Houma, Louisiana in 1982 and 1996. Julia Critchfield in the Gulfport area of Mississippi in 1978. Nancy Carol Stevens in Tupelo, Mississippi in 2005. Evelyn Weston in Fort Jackson, South Carolina in 1978. Rosie Hill in Marion County, Florida in 1982. Linda Sue Boards in Warren County, Kentucky in 1981. Martha Cunningham in Knox County, Tennessee in 1975. An unidentified woman in Cleveland, Ohio in 1977 or 1978. Little also confessed and was linked by DNA to the murder of Dorothy Gibson in Miami, Florida, clearing the name of Jerry Frank Townsend, who had confessed to the slaying along with 5 other murders. With the number of murders that Samuel Little confessed to, he surpassed some of the most well-known serial killers, including Gary Ridgway, Ted Bundy, and John Wayne Gacy, all of which were officially declared the most prolific serial killers at the time of their convictions. Although an interesting fact is that Little was active at the same time as all 3 of these killers. Samuel Little passed away in a Los Angeles County hospital on December 30, 2020. There was no indication for his cause of death released by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, but Little was known to have diabetes and heart problems. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Crafts and Crimes. If you're interested in the things I'm crafting, please check out the links in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment below with what future cases you want me to talk about. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on any future uploads. I'll see you all next time.